There! Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we'll be ranking 22 major Star Wars villains from ranked from like the worst to best. So, I just want to, I think I've been watching like the entire Star Wars like franchise. I'm not taking anything off of Legends, and it's just watchable content, not really like stuff that's written. So just want to know like how good they are as villains technically. And this was a hard one to rank, but I ranked them how I felt like I ranked them because honestly this is kind of hard. Number 22, I actually have Hux, is the worst villain in all of Star Wars. There is some reason here. I feel like it's just a potential way, like most of the sequel trilogy villains, they really just utilize in such a horrible kind of way. Hux is no exception. He's probably the worst one. I mean, like if you look at like his character in The Force Awakens, my guy has so much potential. Even though they just wasted him, like the last Jedi, he just did like a joke when Snoke was just, playing with him, and then the Rise of Skywalker, he was a spy. He gave a very menacing speech in The Force Awakens, bro. That very menacing speech which felt quite Nazi, and and then he just wastes his character just like that. And what do you call that? Terrible utilization. And the sequel trilogy is nothing right. When in the first place, it's Snoke. This is another character who, like Hux, had potential. In Force Awakens, he seemed pretty cool, and I kind of feel Palpatine's shoes is like the new big bad. Oh, guess what happens? He ends up being a tool of Palpatine, just a discount Palpatine. Yeah. When that's not how you want your characters to go. And that fight at the end was good. Okay, don't get me wrong, Andy Serkis is amazing. I do love Andy Serkis. He's a great actor. But what we were given with Snoke just wasn't it. 20th place is Dryden Voss from Solo, and I generally thought his character wasn't as like messed up in terms of writing, say as Snoke and Hux, but he didn't really play a huge role. He didn't have like a lot of characterization to him. There's like not much to his character, apart from this crime lord who has a lot of charisma and gravitas. Um, yeah, like I think don't get me wrong, Paul Bettany is a good actor. Paul Bettany does a good job with Dryden Voss. That's for sure. He just wasn't given much. He was a kind of a fun villain for Solo. He's actually working on the Darth Maul or Maul. And so yeah, what they gave him was fine. It's just he wasn't as interesting as other villains. 19th place is Captain Phasma, from the sequel trilogy. Another villain who I think is actually kind of cool. She does look kind of cool, and she had potential. Maybe like I know there's more to it. I haven't like read like all of her story and stuff. But for like the majority of her time, she was just standing there as a proud commanding officer of the First Order. She's actually the leader of the First Order stormtroopers. And she just served her purpose decently well. I mean, not really well, I don't know what I'm saying. And she gets into the Last Jedi. She has that kind of cool fight when she says, "You're always scum." That was alright. She's not like a damn awful, god awful villain, but it's just the other villains in Star Wars are just better, you know what I mean? So Captain Phasma just had potential, but they didn't really utilize her to her full potential. The sequels, am I right? 18th place is the Grand Inquisitor. Now, I will say he was a fun villain while he lasted. He was both. He served as the main antagonist of like Rebels Season 1 and in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. He made a little bit of a role there. But yeah, he's just low because he didn't really, he didn't last that long. Damn, he's dead just like that. So I think that's my main point, my main issue with the Grand Inquisitor. I mean, I guess he had some cool quotes up there. I gotta admit, but just again, the other characters are just more well utilized. And that final battle with him and Kanan and Ezra, that was actually pretty fun to watch. I think a lot of problems people have with Grand Inquisitor is his lightsaber, and I will admit it is a bit cheesy how he just has his lightsaber that just spins. 17 is Jabba the Hutt. I do think Jabba is a bit overrated, but I don't really see what's so special about Jabba. Sure, he's original. He's in the original trilogy, and he played a bit of a role in Return of the Jedi. But he's just this disgusting big, I don't know, big thing. And there's not much to him apart from being this like really disgusting kind of crime lord who rules with fear. I guess doesn't really do much other than that. Yeah, number 16 is Jango Fett. Of course, Jango is this high for his connection to the Clone Wars series. He's kind of the reason why the Clone Wars exist. Although it wasn't much. He didn't really have much character development. Like he was kind of a fine part in Attack of the Clones. So while I think Jango was fine, they could have done more of him. Not, I mean, maybe not, but I'm just saying. I do quite like Jango in that regard. I like the name Jango. So yeah, well of course, I got to give him credit for the Clone Wars. 15th is Newt Gunray. Now while he's one of the more he's a character, but he's a bit of a memeable character, right? He's a character you can meme. I mean, sure, his voice, his accent is kind of like Asian, like, racist stereotype thing there, I will admit, but he had these moments, I think, like, at the start, and, yeah, I don't know, like, I feel like he kind of serves his purpose well. He's really just a pawn of the Sith, really, in the scheme of things, and that's just, he's definitely not like a threatening villain, but he does serve his purpose pretty well, and it was a fine part of the Phantom Menace. Net 14 is Savage Opress, the brother of Maul, and I think he definitely has a purpose there. He didn't last longer, that's my only problem, but he was just a cool villain while he lasted. He actually started as Dooku's apprentice, later on to be Maul's. So he didn't last that long, but he was somewhat of a cool villain, I think. Yeah. So that's just really what I say there, Savage. I mean, obviously he's not on the same level as Maul, but he still does serve a pretty good purpose. Number 13, I have Director Krennic. He served as the main villain for Rogue One. This is another villain, he has some pretty memeable... He's another memeable villain. He has some pretty, memeable scenes. I think a lot of things with Krennic works. I think Ben Mendelsohn does a good job. He got an Australian actor right there. And how he's like the overseer of the Death Star. Of course, some good quotes there. But he only lasted for one film. And was he all that complicated? No. Number 12 is Moff Gideon. Now, the thing about he serves as the main antagonist of the Mandalorian. So the thing about Gideon is it just like, sure, I think what puts Gideon this high is the actor that plays him. I can't quite remember his name, but the actor who plays him is just such a talented man. The actual character of Gideon himself, I would say, is pretty boring, but the actor just has that kind of presence, You just can't deny his presence, You kind of have to watch him on screen. So not much. He's kind of like, in terms of character, he's kind of like ordinary dictator, I guess. Ex-Imperial officer. But the actor, as I say, is the best part about him for sure. 11th is Kylo Ren. Yeah, he was actually pretty cool in The Force Awakens, I felt. And one of the better parts of the sequel trilogy overall. But his utilization in Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker wasn't great. He was kind of killed off too quickly in Rise of Skywalker. I thought they would have at least done a bit more of him, And then in Last Jedi, his character just got so wishy-washy. He took off the mask and he was just a whiny little boy, pretty much. I know he's not actually a Sith, I believe. And yeah, I don't want to hear people say he's a Sith. His lightsaber is unstable, just like him. See, I think Kylo is he's like a decent character, just like just the writing. Rian Johnson is, you already know what Rian Johnson is a war criminal in his own rights. I mean, come on, man. And Kylo Ren is just, he's fine. I think Adam Driver is a good actor. Don't get me wrong. I like Adam Driver a lot. I think Adam Driver is a good actor. Okay, but Kylo Ren is just there. Number 10 is Boba Fett. A little bit overrated, I think. I mean, he's not like a true villain in my opinion. Like overall, I mean, he's people just remember him as being this cool bounty hunter from the original trilogy, even though he had such a small role. And then you have him, and we got a bit more of him in Attack of the Clones, as kind of some more of his origin story, and his own kind of like little kind of like arc in the Clone Wars, which was honestly fine. And then you bring him back in Mandalorian Season 2, at the end of Season 2, and Book of Boba Fett. And again, you could definitely say Book of Boba Fett ruined his character, which on some levels it did. But I don't really mind him that much, personally. And he was kind of fun seeing him return in Mandalorian as well, so I've got to say that. Number 9 is General Grievous. Now, General Grievous, well, not the most, this is a weird one, right? Because he's just a fun villain, many lightsabers to add to my collection. I mean, he's a lightsaber collector. How cool can that be, right? I mean, and back to the Clone Wars days. God, I'm gonna miss those days, right? And General Grievous is no exception. And he kind of has this treasured backstory. He was actually like, he kind of lost a lot. He kind of lost a lot of his people. He actually carried his people at one point, which is kind of a weird thing for someone. He does come across as one of the more kind of cold-hearted villains, Probably one of the more like one of the crueler villains, I think, if you think about it. He just kills for lightsabers, and that's just cool. He's not exactly the sharpest villain in the ship, but he does serve Count Dooku, and he's just a fun villain. What more can I say? He's just such a memeable villain. Of course, he seems with General Kenobi, your reputation precedes you. I mean, just honestly, those fights with Kenobi are all fun to watch. That ending, you are doomed. Hello there. That, of course, that's great. Number 8 is Grand Moff Tarkin. Now, he's actually been there since day one. He was there since the first movie came out, A New Hope. And Grand Moff Tarkin, from such a menace, he gives off major Nazi vibes there of Grand Moff Tarkin. And the actor, I think it was Peter Cushing, I believe his name was. Does a great job. And you have to kind of study his character a bit more, and like immediately you see a younger kind of version of him in the Clone Wars. And you see him in like stuff like Bad Batch and Rebels. He kind of plays a small kind of role there, and of course in Rogue One. He has a lot of knowledge, right? He's like a true believer in the Empire, right? He believes in the Empire, and he's also one of the he's one of the most feared Imperial officers in the Empire, and he's also possibly the most evil Star Wars villain, besides of course Palpatine. I think you could honestly make that a debate there. He's a ruthless man, and I think that's what works with Grand Moff Tarkin. And of course that quote is, "You may fire when ready." You already know that quote. That quote hits. Number 7 is Cad Bane. Now, Cad Bane isn't like unique, and I'm sorry, he doesn't look as cool in live action as he does in the Clone Wars or animated. He's just such a fun villain, right? Oh, hello there, little lady. Yeah, that quote always hits. And he has such like style with a bounty hunter. The way he fights, it's just fun to watch. And he didn't really play a huge role in any of the Clone Wars episodes, but when he was there, it was always kind of fun to see some Cad Bane. There were times when I think he honestly stole the show, quite frankly. And that final show him and Boba Fett was fine. I mean, just like the CGI on him. Was it CGI? Yeah, it wasn't like great, but that final battle gave us some pretty good dialogue. Number 6 is Asajj Ventress. Now, again, I think she's actually a unique character. She's she comes from the same species as Maul, actually. No, similar species, the same homeworld, right? She's actually she's not like a truly evil person, or she kind of had this hard life, alright? She kind of like lost a bit, and she kind of gets betrayed by Count Dooku, and then she was betrayed by Count Dooku under Palpatine's orders, and she kind of went rogue a bit, and then just became a bounty hunter and whatnot. So I think she's actually a fun villain. She has that soothing voice, a very soothing voice. I mean, honestly, what more can I say? Asajj is she's just a fun villain, and she's actually gonna be returning in Bad Batch season 3, and with actual hair and a yellow lightsaber this time, which will be interesting. And I'm excited to see what they can do with her in season 3 of the Bad Batch. I mean, honestly, that's just that. Number 5 is Count Dooku. Now, from the villains rank from 2nd place to 5th place, they can go in any order, alright? They honestly can. And Count Dooku, as you guys should know, I do love Count Dooku. I think Count Dooku is just a cool villain. What makes Count Dooku just so cool is just his elegance, right? He just, like, and hear me out. In my opinion, Count Dooku is the most exciting lightsaber wielder, like the most exciting person actually watching a lightsaber duel. He just fights with such elegance in the Clone Wars. I mean, bro, he can fight. He just fights so well. Even he's an 83-year-old man who still has good reflexes and can fight. Impressive, right? And just his overall character, I think, is interesting. He's not like pure evil, to be honest. Alright, he's not pure evil. He sees the corruption. And he just doesn't want a part of it. I mean, he has decent ideas in mind, but he kind of goes about it in the wrong way, which is an interesting thing to see with villains every now and then. Like I think, honestly, in the prequel trilogy, he didn't seem that bad. Then you bring him in the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars kind of did dive into kind of Dooku's kind of more dark kind of side there. And I was actually reading into Dooku's history, and it actually is really quite interesting. So I think Count Dooku is actually a very interesting character. And I mean that elegance, the sheer elegance he brings off, whew. And I mean, just the charisma he has, I God love it. Number 4 is actually Grand Admiral Thrawn, my favourite villain who ain't a Sith or a Force user. And what makes Grand Admiral Thrawn so impressive is his mere intelligence, right? He's such an intelligent villain, right? He can figure things out based on like the smallest details, like a piece of art, right? That's pretty impressive. Now, I know there's actually a lot of history to Grand Admiral Thrawn and his kind of species. I haven't read all that because there's a lot about him. But based on I think he was actually one of the best parts of Rebels, quite possibly, arguably the best character in the entire Rebels. He just stole the show and he has that menacing kind of screen presence, and just stole the show whenever he was on screen. And then you bring him back in Ahsoka, and he's still as much of a menace in Ahsoka, and one of the best parts of that series for sure. So yeah, number 3, of course, Emperor Palpatine. These next 3, of course, they're widely known as like very good villains. Emperor Palpatine is no exception. He's the main villain of Star Wars. He's the man behind it all. He just the amount of evil he puts into his schemes. Like he's just such a smart villain, right? But also incredibly evil. Just the amount of strings he can pull. How he just values his apprentices as just pawns. Nothing more really. And like just the amount of patience he went through. Like for like that 13 years he was plotting to kind of take control and rule the entire galaxy, and he succeeded in ruling the entire galaxy for what 20 plus years, which is pretty impressive. And you know, not only is he one of the most, he's easily the most evil villain in Star Wars, but he's also, some people say he's actually like the most evil villain of all time because he is truly evil. Right, he's a truly evil person, and he has some great quotes. Of course, the unlimited power, do it. He has some chilling quotes, and honestly, you can just respect honestly. And he's this good, like, he's definitely the most villainous villain in that regard, and just the amount of, the way he plans stuff out, of course, I can go on and on. Emperor Palpatine, of course, is an amazing villain. Runner-up, of course, is Maul. And, yeah, Maul, I think it's just as good because of how complicated this villain really is. And as you know, my profile picture is Maul. I am a big fan of Maul. I love his double-bladed lightsaber, I don't care. But, I mean, sure, in The Phantom Menace, he was a bit underdeveloped, but of course, that battle between him, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan was, of course, very fun to watch. Duel of the Fates, an amazing song, an amazing lightsaber duel. And they bring him back in the Clone Wars. So I know people think, bringing characters back isn't great, but they bring him back in the Clone Wars, and they really develop his character. And what makes him also interesting is just he's like this broken person. He has chances to redeem himself, but doesn't really choose to it, but he's still a very broken person at that. He didn't really choose to join the dark side, but he was kind of brought up to be that way, kidnapped by Sidious. And he started out as an apprentice for Sidious. He was actually very loyal to him, and then he actually kind of like after Sidious kind of betrays him, he's kind of like puts him in the middle of the spectrum because like he has hate for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he also hates Palpatine, and that's what makes Maul such a fascinating character. And that screen presence, the animations for Maul, they're really good. And he played a big role in Clone Wars and Rebels. It was actually quite sad to see my boy Maul go in Rebels. In some ways, Maul was actually my favorite villain. In some ways, right? In some ways, he's actually my favorite villain. But yeah, just the amount of character development my boy got, it was impressive. And of course, I think I already mentioned screen presence. He just has that presence. He's also very He's also a very intimidating villain. I feel like he's someone he's someone that you can definitely be feared. He has that soothing kind of voice. Gotta love Maul. But number one should be absolutely no surprise. It's Darth Vader, the OG. I mean, just the amount of character development they put into this. There's so much depth to this character. I felt like, of course, in the original trilogy, he has some very great quotes, and is regarded as one of the most iconic villains of all time in cinematic history. He is probably a top 10 villain of all time. I'm just gonna say this right here. I mean, just he's menacing, right? Just everything about. I guess there's so much things to say. I mean, in the prequel trilogy, people were a bit disappointed about Anakin Skywalker, but I think Revenge of the Sith redeemed him there, made it more interesting. And of course, the Clone Wars had made Anakin a lot more interesting, and the way he was using like stuff. I think he was actually the best part of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And in Rebels, he had some pretty cool scenes there. But I think actually one of my favorite Darth Vader scenes was actually the hallway scene in Rogue One, where he was just going down the hallway slaughtering everyone. That was the best scene of Rogue One. He was just great to see, and he's a true menace. But what's interesting about Vader, he's actually not pure evil. Unlike the Emperor, he's just a pawn of the Emperor, and he's actually this deeply broken person inside. Right? He actually has redeeming qualities, and his kind of whole journey, he actually does fulfill his destiny in the end and brings balance to the Force. So there's actually a lot of things to say here about Darth Vader, as he is the most iconic and quite possibly the best Star Wars character. I think with some debate, and that of course the iconic breathing, the mask, just everything about him just rules. So yeah, there's not much. I mean, honestly, I could go on about him all day, but Vader is a real menace. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.